It's a beautiful Thursday morning right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Great to have you join us on our Business Morning live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's take a look at what's happening in the news there. We see global ratings agency Fitch has downgraded the credit rating of two Tier 1 Nigerian banks operating in Ghana. A statement by Fitch shows that both banks' sovereign ratings were lowered from B to B- with a stable outlook. The rating actions follow Fitch's downgrade of Ghana's long-term rating from B to B- on January the 14th, as the banks do not meet Fitch's criteria to be rated above the sovereign on a standalone basis. An unveiling of rice pyramids brings to mind similar images that dotted the northern landscape in the distant past. Our correspondent, Abubakar Saliu, gives us a historical background of the days of the Granite pyramids. Do take a listen.
The famous groundnut pyramids were invented by a prominent merchant, Alhassan Dantata, who came to Kano in 1919 and within 5 years became one of the most successful businessmen, supplying the British Royal Niger Company with most of its groundnut needs. Dantata's company kept their groundnuts at a facility in Kofa, Nasarawa, within the ancient city of Kano, and they stacked them in bags in the shape of pyramids before they were shipped. From the 1910s, pyramid-like structures made from groundnut sacks were built in settlements like Kano, Malam Madori, and Bebeji. From the late 1950s, these places experienced a boom in groundnut production, which eventually became the country's most valuable single export crop. In the 1960s and 70s, these pyramids reached their peak as people could find rows of such huge structures, sometimes holding as much as 15,000 full bags at collection fields. The city of Kano and other areas in the north were then witnessing the boost in economic and commercial activities. However, in the early 1970s, groundnut production in northern Nigeria began to witness a decline, majorly because of drought, general neglect of agriculture because of the oil boom, lack of organized inputs and marketing, and dissolution of groundnut marketing boards. The total groundnut production up to 1973 was more than 1.6 million metric tons, which came down to less than 0.7 million metric tons in the mid-80s. That ancient pyramid is resurfacing in Abuja as the federal government, working with the Rice Farmers Association, stacked 1 million bags of rice paddy in pyramid style. Hopefully, this form of storage will lead to a revolution in the nation's agriculture sector.
All right, now for commodities update, we'll see oil steady today, clawing back losses earlier in the session. Brent crude futures fell 17 cents to $88.27 a barrel, having dropped more than $1 earlier in the session. The global benchmark touched $89.17 a barrel on Wednesday, its highest since October 2014. I would say our U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 7 cents to stand at $87.03 a barrel, having also shed nearly $1 earlier. WTI climbed to as much as $87.91 on Wednesday, the highest since October 2014. Let's talk to Damilola Akimbamina, head of research at Financial Derivatives Company. Great to have you again this week.
Good morning, Ladi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this rally is seems to be moving strong.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, what's sentiment like right now?
Well, the sentiment right now is surrounds supply concerns. So that is basically what is driving the price rally in the oil market. Because if you look at the factors that are influencing supply, so one, we know that there's tight supply, there's the Middle East, the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East with what happened, the Houthi attack on the UAE, and then we also have the fact that there was a pipeline, an Iraqi pipeline blast, which occurred, I think it was yesterday that occurred. And there are several OPEC members that are yet to meet up with their quota production. So the likes of Angola and Nigeria, they're not producing, they're producing below their quota. So there's supply tightness in the market. on one hand, demand is also recovering strongly because a lot of economies, they are reducing or relaxing their restrictions. So we're seeing that pick up. There's also colder winter in the northern hemisphere, which is also spurring the demand for oil. So basically, the fundamentals are still skewed to supply tightness, and that's what is driving the rally in the market.
And, you know, looking at this rally now, is this the one that takes us, you know, to $100?
Well, there are actually some analysts that are projecting. Some analysts are projecting that, for instance, Goldman Sachs is projecting that we could see oil price touch $100 by the third quarter of this year. You know, around November, maybe even early December, they made that projection too that with the year could end, oil prices could end around that level, but we didn't see that. If the fundamentals remain the same, we could see that happen. I mean, the only factors or the major risks to oil prices declining right now would be maybe the reemergence of more variants that are immune to the COVID vaccine, or possibly global policy tightening. When that happens and interest rates start to increase and the dollar strengthens, then we could see commodity prices decline. But aside from that, I mean, we are most likely going to see this rally continue, unless also if OPEC becomes more aggressive with its output increase. You know, they've maintained that 400,000 barrel per day increase for quite some time now, but if they become more aggressive just to keep oil price within a certain range, then we could see oil price soften. But aside from that, then this momentum is here to stay for at least for the next couple of weeks.
For the next couple of well, I was reading, you know, on Twitter yesterday, you know, at traders, some oil traders forum right there, and some of them were looking at shorting oil at this time, expecting some kind of pullback. What do you think?
Well, yes, I mean, we would get to a point where oil prices, I mean, they're rising and all that, and then investors start to take profit, and then that obviously could lead to it losing or shedding some of its gains. But again, it's just going to be marginal, maybe $1 here, $2. So I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see oil prices continue to trade around that 85 to a strong, maybe even touching $90 in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so higher oil prices, high US dollar, higher interest rates. This mixture doesn't look so good.
Well, we're looking at for Nigeria right now because, I mean, for countries that export oil, definitely stand to benefit from higher oil prices. But for Nigeria, especially when you're looking at the fiscal and external sector impact, you also have to look at the production side. You can't take oil prices in isolation. And if you look at what has happened so far right now this year for oil prices are about 42% above the 2022 budget of about $62. Production figures are not out yet with the month we're just like middle of the month. But if you look at 2021, average oil price in 2021 was about $70 per barrel, which was about 77% above the 2021 price budget benchmark of $40. Whereas production fell sharply. The average domestic production was about 1.4 million barrels per day, which was about 25% shortfall compared to our budget benchmark for production, which was about 1.86 million barrels per day. But the fact that the price increase significantly outweighed the production decline. So the impact on revenue is still positive to an extent. But then for you to be able to benefit from higher oil prices, there has to be that commensurate increase also in production. And that's why if you look at the gross external reserves, they're still depleting despite the fact that oil prices are high. And the deficit financing needs of the government would continue to increase if you can ramp up production. So for instance, the 2022 budget, we have a fiscal deficit of about 6 trillion naira. That's almost 4% of GDP, which is above the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which is about 3% of GDP. So what does the government need to do? You need to address these issues that are preventing or limiting production increase. So whether issues of militancy, which has reduced to an extent in the Niger Delta, but is still there. I mean, there's pipeline vandalism. There's the issue there's some controversies surrounding the Petroleum Industry Act in terms of some of the fiscal clauses. Make that industry more attractive to investors. We know there's the subsidy talks, and we know that will be eliminated sometime this year. I mean, so if you can do that and also address refineries, because on one hand, we are producing, but we are not refining. So if you can make it attractive enough for investors to also come and participate in the refining capacity or sector of the industry. So for instance, we have Downgraded. If you have more of that, you increase your production, you boost refining capacity. I mean, Nigeria will be in a better position.
And it's incredible that we're the only OPEC member that doesn't refine?
Yes. Oh, no, well, we still have the other, like, I don't think Angola, even if Angola refines, I mean, I doubt if they meet up with their domestic refining capacity. So they
But
still have to.
they have some
yes, and again,
refining
Angola,
going on.
compared to Nigeria in terms of
Nigeria.
population, Angola is a smaller economy. So that's why we feel that impact significantly.
Okay, it's interesting, oil prices are rising, but the buffers are still,
Exactly, the buffers
tending downwards.
downwards.
So I'm looking at a situation where oil prices come down. What happens?
And then Nigeria, our fiscal position will be in a dire state because despite the fact that oil prices are increasing, our external imbalances are not improving. So if the situation occurs where oil prices fall sharply, in a worst case scenario, let's say they fall as low as $50, $60 per barrel, and we cannot ramp up our production, I mean, our revenues are going to fall sharply. Our external reserves are about $40 billion. We're looking at maybe something like around 25, $30 billion gross external reserves, which will also mean that on one hand, we have external sector challenges. The currency could come under speculative attack again. The CBN won't be able to support the currency well enough. On the fiscal aspect also, your borrowing needs increase. I mean, I just talked about the 6 trillion deficit. That means we will need to borrow more to be able to fund that deficit, and we're pushing us closer to falling off that debt cliff.
So anyway, we have to sort out our issues.
Yes, we do.
Either oil prices going up or down.
Yes,
we have a lot to.
We have.
Okay. All right. Let's look at transport now. We see Lagos introduces 800 naira harmonized daily levy for commercial transporters from February 1st. This should help in reducing multiple taxes.
Yes. So what it does is so by creating a harmonized levy, I mean, it reduces that multiplicity of levies collection. So what we see at play currently is that these public commercial commuters, at almost every bus stop, they are being forced or compelled to pay some level or the other. So yes, so basically it sanitizes the whole process, and this is different from the statutory duties that are still going to be paying to their union and the other association. But the fact that at least there is one levy, so again, for even collection and accountability purpose, I mean, and even revenue generation for the state also, you know what is coming into the revenue coffers from the transportation sector. It is more sanitized, it's more orderly, and also you can better account for that informal sector and possibly even move that, because that is part of the informal economy, the commercial commuters. Yes, so if you could also move that to the formal economy, you have a clearer sense of what that road transport sector contributes to GDP. I mean, if you look at the Q3 growth numbers, road transport sector grew about 21%, which is high compared to, I mean, agriculture that was about 1.2%, and oil sector, which was even in negative. So I think it's a good thing. But then the thing is, okay, looking at the impact, yes, it's harmonized, but then if at the end of the day, the price change, if it's not that significant, I mean, you might not necessarily see a price decline in terms of transport fares, because again, prices are sticky downwards. So yes, it will harmonize the system. Yes, it makes it easy for collection and for accountability purposes.
So with this, we won't have all those agents.
Well, we shouldn't have that. And again, it blocks leakages, because again, most of these funds or monies that are collected, they don't end up in the right place. So maybe the touts or the middlemen, it ends up in their pockets. So with this, we hope that it would address all these leakages and loopholes, and it gets to where it's supposed to be.
So I'm guessing there'll be some kind of sharing formula in that 800 naira, between the state and the NUR, the unions, and other parts.
There may be, but again, like I said, the unions still have their statutory duties, which
remains.
That remains. So this is completely different. The statutory duties to the National Union of Road Transport Workers, and even they have this association also. They still have these duties that are going to pay to them. It's completely different from the 800. Yes, the 800 naira consists of like maybe waste. What goes to LASWA, the Lagos State Waste Management Authority? What goes to climate, environment, things like that.
So that means the transporters still have a burden then.
Exactly. That's why I said that, technically speaking, depending on how much they used to, obviously, because if I have to pay at every bus stop, depending on the amount, maybe 50 naira here, 100 naira, 200 naira here, at the end of the day, maybe more than 800 naira. So that's what I was saying, like, okay, fine. At the end of the day, the cumulative effect might be a decline, and might not be. But at the end of the day, even if it's a decline, the fact that at least as a commuter, I know exactly how much I'm paying, and it is enforced, because enforcement is another thing.
Right.
The government can say, okay, yes, you are paying 800 naira, but if it's not properly enforced and monitored, then it's going to be a double whammy. You're paying 800 and you're still paying. Yes, all those, yeah.
Anyway, we'll still keep tracking that to see how it goes. But another issue now, UK's inflation hits a 30-year high. Obviously, this isn't good for emerging economies like Nigeria.
Yes, so I mean, rising inflation is now a global trend. I mean, we've talked about inflation. Inflation is rising in Nigeria. Inflation is rising in the US, in the UK, China, even in Africa. We have South Africa, Ghana, Angola. So it's a global trend right now. And it's now basically forcing a lot of global monetary authorities to tighten their monetary policy stance.
I remember when we always called it a transitory
last
year, but now it's
and this year, there are a lot of factors, at least like about 3, 4, 5 factors that are going to keep prices high in 2022. One, I mean, the energy crisis and high oil prices. You have wages are increasing also. There's the climatic conditions. I mean, you also have the fact that the pandemic, so post-pandemic as economies recover, and which has led to supply shortages. So these factors are still very much in play and will continue to contribute to rising inflation this year, both globally and in the domestic market.
I would see UK workers also have that wage squeeze issue.
Exactly.
It's not rising as much as inflation there. All right, let's see what's happening in the domestic commodities market today.
Yeah, so for the domestic commodities market, I mean, let's look at rice. We still called some of our contacts yesterday. I mean, following the unveiling of the rice pyramid, yes, on Tuesday, thinking, because, I mean, they're supposed to see an increase in supply, but alas, the price of rice is still around the same figure of 30,000 naira. I guess maybe in the next couple of weeks, maybe a month when everything is sorted out.
Time,
yes, let's give it some time. Let's give it some time. We should see that price decline. But going into the next month, February, I mean, the planting season obviously would commence and we start to see some supply shortages. In the global market, I mean, if you look at that slide, all the arrows are red. Yes,
red,
yes, and yes, our export cocoa price is down, all our imports are up. So that just means that our terms of trade is deteriorating, and in terms of trade, it measures the changes in your export prices versus your import prices. And since our import prices are rising faster and our export price is down, so our terms of trade are deteriorating.
All right. Thank you so much, Dami.
Thank you, Ladi.
Quite
Thank
a grim picture there.
Yes.
Dami, that's the head of research, financial derivatives company. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I will take a moment now. Welcome back to our next conversation now. Earlier this week, President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled a 1.2 million bag paddy rice pyramid in Abuja, a project under the CBN's Anchor Boroughs program, all in a bid to boost food production and encourage rice exports. Let's drill down now on this rice pyramid with Dr. Oke Ikechukwu. That's Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. Great to have you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
yes,
to be here.
Yeah, so it's a rice pyramid. What's the significance of this?
Well, I think we should move our attention away from just the pyramid to the broader policy thinking that led to the pyramid. It's only one aspect. The Anchor Boroughs program, if you look closely, targets 21 different commodities, of which rice is one. And the objective rests on 3 legs. Number 1, to improve agricultural yield all over the country. Number 2, to minimize or reduce or minimize or possibly eliminate food importation. And thirdly, increase balance of trade. In other words, to enable the country and more foreign exchange. So once we keep this perspective, it becomes easier to see that this is a much broader national goal than just the production of rice. I mean, the one of wheat is on, the one of maize, but 21 commodities, and then 26 financial institutions are involved. So from just this initial observation, you see that the conversation has been reduced to what you might call a distracting narrative, making it look like the Anchor program is just about price. No, it is not. And on the matter of balance of trade, if a country exports more, it earns more, the value of its currency gets better, and then the overall economy improves. That's one of the intentions. Now, if we say that the idea is includes to improving yield, is there any indication to that effect? You check the records, it shows that before the program began, we were recording 5.4 million Tons, metric tons, as at the last engagement, which was last year, it had come to 9 million. Then you also look at the entire value chain. Is there job creation? And you ask the question, the farmers who benefited from it, is it true that they employed more people? The answer is yes. Is it true that the overall output increased? The answer is yes. Also, if you say you're producing more rice, that means you're also going to need more meals, rice meals. And the records indicate that as at the time of commencement, there were roughly 6 repeatable meals. Today, there are over 50. So on the face of it, looking at rice alone, you can say, yes, you're seeing some delivery in the area of yield, and you can talk about reduction of import too. The fact also, as at the commencement, I think total record of rice imports from Thailand alone was 1.3 million metric tons. By 2016, it had come down to 5.8 thousand. And as I slightly, I stood at 2,100 metric tons, 600 metric tons. The point being made is this. Once we take the broader perspective that the intention is to create a comprehensive ecosystem for greater national survival, it becomes easier to expand the conversation beyond just a rice pyramid.
Beyond the pyramid. All right. So,
yes.
How does it, really work? How's the, we know it's a pyramid, but how is the rice stored or preserved? Does it just stay like that? How does it really work?
Okay, you produce remember it's a loan, and a loan is to be paid back. So with that loan, how do you access the loan is that you have what you call the Smallholders Economic Interest Farmers Cooperative. You join it, you register, you open an account, you tender what will qualify you, including age limit and capacity and the exposure and experience. If you get it, you're going to pay back that loan. Or the interesting element in all of this is that now, much of that rice you're seeing is actually the loan repayment. So it's an interesting dimension that farmers who took loans are being made, many of them, to use the financial equivalent of the bags of rice or whatever commodity to pay for the loans. Now, it gives us two twin advantages. Number one, the farmer doesn't have to sit with his product and be cheated by middlemen. Number two, what do you call it? Number two, it's possible to then have it under the control of a government as reserve and all of that. So if you look at it on the whole, the progression is towards greater, getting farmers to develop far greater confidence in themselves, in what they do, and for it in the long term to impact the economy. That's why I say the conversation has to be expanded. Yes.
Okay, but we saw some videos making the rounds, on social media, something about wood being underneath the pyramid. Is that the norm?
Sorry, take that again, please.
Yeah, we saw some videos making the rounds on social media and pictures, about the pyramid. There's some kind of wood structure underneath it instead of bags of rice, stacked.
Yes. I saw that too. And if you go to the social media, you'll find that video is mostly pictures actually. It's at least 2 years old from what I recall. And why it's a bit difficult to pin that on the events of this week is that you could see the entire the entire framework structure of the Abuja rice. It was all bags of rice. So I saw that and it's not new. It's not a recent. It's not from Even if you take the landscape, you notice the bags are also painted. I think some kind of program. The first time I saw it, I think it was linked with Kano or something like that, either before but I know I'd seen that before. But the point is that anybody who can confirm that that's Abuja should do so. For those who went, you saw it on TV, you saw the thing. The interesting thing is that I think the CPN and the federal government took the precaution of recording the various stages of the arrangement of the rice.
Okay.
So that that picture that came out subsequently, and of course in an environment where anybody can Photoshop anything and put up, it becomes an issue. But you see, all of this doesn't remove the fact that we still have challenges as a nation. Doesn't remove the fact that what the CBN has been saying has not been fully addressed, namely that it is productivity that will give us a viable economy, a stable nation, and all of that. And it's not just productivity, but also security. Because if you produce and you don't have access to harvest, it becomes an issue. Now, with this holistic perspective, it becomes possible for us to actually celebrate or at least talk positively about, if you like, instrumental gains. But if anybody is expecting that a single intervention will be the do-all and end-all for the country, that would be a mistake. If anybody thinks that the anchor program is about rice and just rice, that would be a mistake. And I'm sure for some people that are hearing for the first time that 21 commodities are covered across the 36 states and Abuja, and that 23 financial institutions are involved.
Okay.
Until these facts are out, people will think it's just you go to CBN and collect money.
All right.
More than anything else, we stand in a time of crisis where we need broad-based initiatives for sustainable development.
All right. Talking about challenges, that still persist. We see that the price of rice, the market is still, quite high. When do you think we can expect to see, a reduction, with all of these interventions?
Whatever I say will be purely speculative and hypothetical. But if we are saying that the rice has been harvested and we can see it, it means that it must move from the location to the market. So if anybody is expecting that within 10 minutes of seeing the rice at the event, you will have rice or at your doorstep, that would be a wrong assumption. The other thing, of course, is to consider that it all boils down, it's all part of a cocktail of intervention. So one expects that probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks, the difference will begin to emerge. But more importantly, we also need to know that the rice we saw, if you check the records of the proceedings and interventions to and fro with farmers with the CBN and the financial institutions, it would appear that what we have there is not even the complete harvest because, paddy, you have wet and dry paddy. I did a bit of geography, if you like.
Right.
China does, Indonesia does mostly wet paddy, but also dry. So the record we have shows, the display we got showed the harvest for wet and dry season harvest, paddy harvest for 2020 and wet season harvest for 2021, which means that the one for 2022 was not part of the display. But back to your substantive question, yes, the price of rice is still high, and it is expected that this will begin to impact, the development will begin to impact both the availability of rice and the price, so that affordability becomes part of what will be celebrated in addition to availability.
Okay. Well, there's still headwinds, with inflation and other things. How will the CBN, support, rice consumption with inflation and relatively weak purchasing earnings?
Yeah. Well, certainly the inflation cuts across board. If in addition to inflation prices are very high, everybody will be flattened out. Now, if there's inflation and you're buying rice, like you said, at 30,000, and supply improves, the simple logic of supply and demand is that prices will begin to come down. People will always eat, that's one sure thing. And each time we say, how will the CBN do this? How will CBN? Supposing CBN succeeds in funding, because on this, they helped practically 4.5 billion farmers. And then how many hectares? 5 million hectares were cultivated, which would not have been cultivated before then, not up to that amount of space. But then you now ask, how will CBN ensure that this thing yields and the rice is supplied to the people? My question would be, does the Central Bank of Nigeria has an army? Is it the business of the CBN or any financial institution to guard farms? So we disaggregate responsibilities and know where to acknowledge that people have done something. It's like the kind of argument you hear about INEC. Oh, they rigged the elections, you're holding INEC responsible. Is INEC police or army or DSS? So we cannot be asking whether and how the CBN will bring down the price of rice, or how the CBN will do what it do about security of farms after it's given this thing. It's a broader national problem, but it is an institution that's trying to make its mark within that broader national problem. And we take things instrumentally.
Because rising prices, general rise in prices is also a big issue, and the regulator has a role to play with that.
Yes, general rise in prices, yes, but you see, once supply is low, People will go behind the regulator to do what they like. Once productivity is low, people will go behind the regulator to do what they like about the foreign exchange. Because if you don't sell, look, let's create a scenario. A lot of what you eat is not what you produce in your house, and a lot of what you produce doesn't go out. So first, you're not earning enough. Second, what you're eating is coming from elsewhere. So you'll be spending what you have or you'll be borrowing. Either way, you're in trouble. Now, that's part of our crisis. Now, the only way you can now improve your welfare, and that's your house, is to improve what you produce. Then people will buy things from you. You'll have money as you're selling. So if you buy 10 things outside and you sold 7 things, you have a deficit of 3. You may get to 10, and you may even move to 13 against them coming from outside. Now, balance of trade and crisis of a deficit in the ratio between our import and export is a problem. And is a matter that cuts across, that is a lot of factors contribute to. Issues of security, issues of policy. Institutions should be properly disaggregated and their responsibilities defined so that they don't blame that doesn't belong to them, doesn't get transferred to them.
All right.
Certainly, prices are up, inflation is high, job creation is an issue. But again, you look at the Anchor Borrowers program, has it created jobs? Yes. If you have 6 meals, rice meals, and it's gone to over 40 today, is it not true that a lot more people are working at least within those areas? If some farmers have been able to expand their farms, does it not necessarily follow? Does it not follow automatically that they must have employed at least one extra person? But
all right.
When you say that there's still a lot of unemployment, I'll agree with you. But I'll then point out that there is some employment in respect of ABCD activities. That way we develop a perspective that's less lamentational, more nationalistic without being pretentious, more broad-minded without trying to defend the regime or its policies. People swear,
All right,
people
Mr.
sleep,
Akeju.
people come up. The overall environment tends to make even the best look slightly incompetent. So
Okay.
I'm concerned to do that disaggregation and say, okay, this is what I think is good about the development, and that is the broader policy framework that led to this.
Okay, Mr. Akeju. Well, we'll keep tracking that to see how all of this plays out. I was going to ask you, if there are any plans to, expand access to the CBN's anchor borrowers. I don't know if you can just touch on that briefly.
Oh, yes. It's open, it's free, it's available. The stake smallholders, farmers, the smallholders economic interest farmers cooperative, all anybody needs to do is join it, meet the criteria. And the beauty of cooperatives is that it gives you enhanced credibility, because a cooperative will not forward somebody who is suspect in any way that, look, this person may not. So it's available, it's open. But I think the other good news is that since you're sure actually that your products will be bought from you, that you can use your product to repay the loan, the sense of panic declines, etc. It doesn't remove the fact that there are people who are challenged by security and couldn't do much of harvest, in which case it is a case of force majeure, it's not deliberate. But it should be expanded. People have also raised the question, oh, why would you go and support such a thing? Why not leave it to commercial banks? And the question would be, who has gone to a commercial bank and at what percentage did he get a loan that's outside of this intervention, any other? So it's a complete mix. But yes, it's available. They are continuing it. I think the more important thing to do is to monitor its claimed deliverables and then measure whether it's being delivered and assess it in that order.
Okay.
And also know that it's not price. It is 21 commodities across the Federation. It can be assessed for efficiency, for even the yield and all the rest of it. But the important thing is for the conversation to be objective and focus on greater national interest here.
All right, Mr. Okechukwu, thank you so much. Executive Director at Development Specs Academy. Thank you for coming on the program today.
My pleasure.
All right, now let's take a look at what's happening in the markets with Anete. Anete, how's it looking?
Yes, good morning, Ladi. Midweek trading at the NGX. As a matter of fact, the last 2 days has been a bullish momentum, more than 500 billion naira gained at the NGX. And of course, that came on the back of gains from Airtel, Africa, as well as Seplat. This is what the number printed out at the close of trading on Wednesday, 1.73% on the all-share index, which is well within the it crossed into the 45,000 level. Sorry about that picture. It hit a 4-year high, crossing into the 45,000 level, a feat it achieved on the same day, coincidentally and ironically, on the 19th of January 2018. So it crossed the 45,000 level. And then, of course, at the same time, we gained more than 417 billion naira, which came on the back of about 16 gainers. You know, we had just a tad negative performance on the price chart, but at the same time, in terms of sectoral performances, green colors all the way. It's kind of mixed, but the greens have it. There you have it. The biggest gain on that sectoral counter was a 2.21% increase on the oil and gas sector, which came on the back of Seplat, that's market or oil market giant. Now, at the same time, volume of transactions, like I mentioned, green was the color for the market, and we're expecting that the market will continue this bullish momentum, but how far it will go, we just cannot say. But we'll have our analyst, Abdul Rashid Momo, to talk to us more about that market. If we have him online, he will tell us more about the proceedings at the market. So if we have him there, he'll tell us more about what's happening about the market. But as far as I'm concerned, that market, the year-to-date performance has risen to about 6.35%. which came largely on the back of the 1.73% increase that we saw just yesterday. Then, at the same time, the total volume of transactions that we saw was up by 7.53%. The value was up by 365.25%. Can you beat that in just one day? And in terms of the deals, it was up by 1.54%. So that just tells you that market is still being very bullish, and of course made our headline just yesterday. Now, let's flip over to the fixed income market. It's still bullish for the bonds, in particular, the 22nd of January 2026 paper. Of course, investors' interests were still for some other instrument, but the highest that we had as of yesterday at the FMDQ was the 22nd of January 2026 paper, with number of deals there at 5. So now, well, we were talking about the equities market before we flipped over. So let's get back to Abdul Rashid Momo, who is the chief head of capital market at TRW Stockbrokers. Thank you for joining us, Abdul Rashid.
Thank you, morning.
I'm sure you traders and the market is really impressed with the performance within January, which failed to come in December, but it's coming, not too late in January. But do you see the market sustaining this momentum, ahead of the bonds, the DMO offering about 150 billion worth of bonds, as well as 420 to 480 billion bonds to investors?
Well, okay. I think I was on your channel and I was saying something that the market works like the market has a cycle, right? And one of the things I was talking about was the level the NSCSI was going to hit. Yesterday, I celebrated. I said it was going to hit about 45,000 points yesterday. So it is an all-time. This is an high from 2018. No, that's still 2008 when the market crashed. So this is the highest it's gone from 2008 till date. So it's worth celebrating. And this breakout is coming at a very good period when we are expecting financials and everything from the banks, especially. What has triggered the market so far is the big boys like the MTN, the Airtel, Boa Foods, Boa Cement, Dank Cement. Those are the big ones. The banking sector has not started its own rally yet. You understand? So there's still, yes, we expect some correction, but there's still room for more upsides for the market in the long run.
Okay.
What's coming to the market now is trying going to help the market to create more liquidity and the rest.
Okay, thank you, Abdul Rashid. We'll keep our optimism very high for that outlook, in as much as, yes, the market can decide to have a mind of its own. So, Ladi.
All right, Nate. Well,
I told you, the market, the equities market, it is the favorite market, but I could be wrong. Let's just keep our expectations.
All right, let's look out for the next trend in that market. All right, Nate, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, now after the break, we'll head to London. That's the moment to stay with us. All right, now let's head to London with Juliana right there. Great to have you, Juliana. Good morning. Well, I see Boris Johnson has announced the end of all COVID measures introduced to combat the Omicron variant, from compulsory mask wearing on public transport and others from next week. Well, what is the reaction like?
Good morning, Laddie. I think it's fair to say that most people are pretty divided over yesterday's dramatic announcement by the Prime Minister to scrap Plan B measures, many of them effective immediately, especially because, of course, he's going through a pretty serious political battle at the moment. And it's no surprises that that's what's dominating papers this morning here in the UK, the Plan B measures, not Partygate anymore. So from today, you no longer have to work from home. I think anybody in the UK would have seen it was a little bit busier. Also, from today, school children will no longer have to wear masks, although there have already been some teachers' unions saying that some schools will make sure that children still wear masks, because they think that the scrapping of these Plan B measures at such a haste is pretty dangerous. I think if you go back to November, when these measures were first introduced, I believe we had about 7,000 people hospitalised. Today, we have almost 19,000 people hospitalised. So even though people do like the restrictions, I think wearing of masks is one thing that's confused quite a lot of people, because we know scientifically it's proven to help. The World Health Organization have pretty much rebuffed what Prime Minister said at the dispatch box yesterday. But from next Thursday, COVID vaccine passports for public venues is no longer going to be legally required, and you will not need to wear a face mask in a shop or on transport. However, we have heard from some transport bosses and some shops saying that they will make sure that people wear them if they want to enter into that space.
That's quite interesting, because psychologically you feel you always just have to have a mask on, you know, after wearing it for so long. But let's look at some emerging news now. See, Unilever said it will not increase its offer for GSK's consumer healthcare division above £50 billion after investors, analysts backed at the risk of it pulling off a large merger. What are you hearing about this?
Well, yeah, Unilever's shares they've risen by about 4.5% after they made the announcement today that they will not be going any higher on the £50 billion bid they put in to buy GlaxoSmithKline's health arm, which it produces with a couple of huge American companies. So they actually put in 3 bids. They put 3 bids in over the weekend. The bosses at Unilever, they said they've had a look at the business and they don't think it's worth any more than that. The GSK Healthcom is actually worth about £45 billion. I think most notably it makes Panadol as well as some other healthcare products. They say they wanted a lot more from Unilever, especially because we know that Unilever is one of the most lucrative FTSE 100 firms. They do have a lot of money, worth over £100 billion. They thought they could dig much deeper in their pockets, but they've decided not to, and that seems to have cheered investors in London today.
Wow, quite interesting. We'll get updates for the market at 1:30. Thank you so much, Juliana.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a look at what's happening in the crypto space. Now, let's look at the market cap there. We see it's below the $2 trillion mark. It's gone below that, not just $1.99 trillion. We see 24-hour volume traded in the total crypto space, $72.16 billion. That's down about 10.37%, and Bitcoin dominance there sitting at 40.08%. Price of Bitcoin, $42,004 at 8 a.m. this morning, was up about 0.79%. We see Bitcoin still ranging right now. Volume, $22.92 billion traded in Bitcoin. Top alls by market cap, not looking bad. Just Cardano there in the red. It's down 1.79%, and CBNB up 3.34%. Let's talk to Bjorn Martins now, right there in Malaga. Great to have you, Bjorn.
Good morning, Laddie.
Good morning. Yeah. So I see, the crypto market has quite a number of influencers, and I see a report shows crypto scams in 2021 gulped about $14 billion of hard-earned money. How do we avoid these?
How do we avoid them? It's hard. Also, the crypto scams don't only happen with investors, but they also happen with the developers, the creators of these crypto projects. As there are also marketing scammers, people trying to scam these projects that have the funds, of course, bigger funds to create these projects. And the scams, they get better and better over the time. People are able to create fake followers on Twitter, Facebook, and can really create strategies while it looks like they have engagement, people really listening to them, but they're totally fake. So at the moment, the regulation system, the law is really working its ass off to get its regulations done, really hunt these scammers that they get caught for what they are doing wrong. But at the moment, I call it the Wild West, and it stays the Wild West for a while until these problems are solved.
Yeah, and a couple of traders get their advice from, trading advice from most of these influencers and also on Twitter. What should traders be looking out for?
Now, for the traders to really warn them, for example, in Dubai, a new law has been started since 3 days that when you, as an influencer, you share a scam crypto project, you can get up to 5 years of jail sentence and a fine up to $280,000. I think this is a big step to not let it happen again. Investors themselves, please do your research. Do your own research and don't listen to someone you never heard of before.
Right. All right, Bjorn. Do your own research. Great advice there. Allows Bjorn Matters, the CEO, Passive Income. Thank you so much, Bjorn.
Thank you.
All right, now let's look at the top 5 gainers there. We see FTT there leading that chart up 8.69%. That's the FTX native token for the exchange at $48.03 is up 8% this morning. We see Luna there. Luna looking good, up 6.97%. That's the Terra blockchain protocol that uses fiat peg stable coins. You see Woo Network, a liquidity network there, up about 6.07%, and Hedera Hashgraph, HBAR, up there 5.29%. So the top gainers list quite lean for what we're used to in the crypto market. Let's look at the losers there. It's also not so bad. STX there had a little rally yesterday. It's down about 7.19%. IOTX down 7.15%, and Ethereum Classic, it did show up on the top gainers yesterday, but now I see a couple of profit taking there. It's $31.40 per coin, down 5.91%, and Aave there. Aave is also down 4.30%, and Kadena, one of the favorites of crypto traders right now. Kadena there down about 3.65%. So the crypto market still extreme fear this morning. All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for watching. Do remember to join us at 1:30 p.m. at Business Incorporated for more updates in the world of business. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.